Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have something a little out of the ordinary for you. Not related to mecha or really anime at all. In fact, it's got live action actors. Real humans. My god. Now, I have covered live action stuff before, namely the terrible Gundam movie G-Savior. But today we're going way out into left field, and we're gonna talk about zombies. No, not AMC's The Walking Dead. Today we're going to talk about a sci-fi channel show called Z Nation. A show that says, fear The Walking Dead, more like fuck The Walking Dead, which this show gets uncomfortably close to doing, by the way. Created by movie parody goblins The Asylum, the studio that has been riding the popularity of Sharknado for 6 feature films and 3 spin-offs, Z Nation is described as a horror comedy series. I do believe at first they were just going for horror, but I think viewers were watching it for the schlock, and then they just sort of decided to lean into it. Which, honestly, is perfect, because as a show, Z Nation is fucking insane. Before I get into the absurdity, let me just say that the show, at least in the first season, had a relatively meager budget of just $700,000 per episode. To put that in perspective, AMC's The Walking Dead had a budget that was 5 times as large at $3.4 million per episode in its first season. Personally, I think that Z Nation does a lot with its relatively small budget, and the creativity and variety on display throughout season 1 really should be applauded. With all that being said, I really just wanted to make a quick video about Z Nation because I saw the first episode and thought that, it was really dumb, but very enjoyable. Before we get into things, for one, I apologize, it's incredibly sweaty today, and I have the AC behind me turned off, so if I start to drip, it's summer, man. Also, they're doing construction on our house, so if you hear banging and sawing and drilling, that's not zombies, it's men outside in 95-degree weather while I sit in here and talk about a terrible zombie TV show, so big ups to them. We open 2 years after the start of the zombie apocalypse. They even go so far as to date the episode as starting in 2 AZ, which can only mean after zombie, and that's great. Delta Force Lieutenant Mark Hammond and an unnamed squad member shoot their way through a zombie-infested naval prison in Kittery, Maine. Hey, big ups for the Maine representation. Zombie moose and lobsters aren't nothing to fuck with. Hammond leaves his friend to fend off a group of zombies trapped behind a prison door and goes to meet up with a doctor who's administering an experimental vaccine to some prisoners. It becomes apparent that they didn't volunteer for this, but hey, you know, it's the end of the world, so whatever, I guess. One of the guys that she gives the jab to freaks out so much that he shakes his head so hard that his jaw, dislocates and almost flies off. I don't know how hard you'd have to shake your own head to do that, but I don't think that's actually possible. And you know zombie shows are always very realistic. Finally, we get down to the final prisoner, a guy named Murphy, and surprise, he lives. However, there's a knock at the door, and Hammond sees that his squad member has finally shown up. He opens the door, but it was a fake out, and the soldier was actually a zombie and attacks. Geez, it was really smart of that zombie to knock politely on the door and then face away so that he wouldn't see the wounds. Hammond kills him and then tells the doctor to take off for the evac helicopter. And then he just sort of leaves Murphy strapped to the table to be attacked by zombies. Once the doc gets to the chopper, Hammond returns to presumably find Murphy still alive and immune to the zombie virus, but we don't get to see that. I do have to say that this part is sort of confusing. I get that they needed to have Murphy be bitten by a zombie to show that he's immune, but I feel like there might have been a better way to portray that. I mean, this really makes Hammond seem like a huge asshole. Putting aside the fact that Hammond left Murphy strapped to a table, who was literally begging him to shoot him in the head instead of leave him there to get eaten by zombies. Isn't it a gigantic risk to the entire vaccine plan? Like, we see Murphy get dogpiled by a bunch of zombies, and we learn later that he was bitten 8 times. Really lucky that Hammond got back there before they really started digging into him. I guess all the zombies were full and they were just having a little nibble. Interspersed with this opening is another very important piece of the Z Nation world. Private First Class Simon Cruller, a former hacker working for the NSA. Cruller is left behind at a base and later takes up the moniker Citizen Z, broadcasting music and intel across the apocalypse in a very Three Dog Fallout 3 way. I just love that this guy kind of looks like Tobey Maguire. 1 year later, Hammond is alone with Murphy, and they come across a camp of survivors led by a former National Guard sergeant named Charles Garnett. They trust him fairly quickly after he reveals his Delta Force rank, and tells them he is taking Murphy to a lab in California, but keeps the specifics to himself until later. Hammond asks them for help with transportation to a rendezvous point at a nearby high school, where he's supposed to meet his team, and surprisingly, that works somehow.
I'm not sure we risk the truck. Or you two.
Maybe I haven't been clear. This is more important than your trucks, or anyone's life, including my own. I don't want to have to insist.
Alright, man, go ahead, roll for Intimidate. 20? Okay. So Hammond, Murphy, Garnett, and his second-in-command, Roberta Warren, head out, and we also get introduced to a few more important characters. There's an old guy named Doc who looks like he'd prescribe you some herb, if you know what I mean, and the 2 others named Addie Carver and Mac Thompson. Addie is the de facto tough girl with colored hair, and Mac is her ex-hockey player boyfriend that I sort of forgot existed because he doesn't do much. There is a funny part later where Doc gets attacked by a zombie and Mac is like pointing his gun right at his head. They dispatch some zombies and buy some weapons, and I think this show's violence actually doesn't look that bad, at least when it's simple. There are some CG shots later in the series that, while hilarious, look like something from 2004 and not 2014. Again, $700,000 budget, you do what you can. Then members of the camp come across a bunch of zombies floating in a river or pond. I like this imagery a lot, even though it ends up kind of silly because all those zombies are just taking a nap and get up to attack the camp. I like the thought that all the zombies were just like, well, this looks like a good spot as any, I'm just gonna lay right here. Hammond's group has a little tiff when they can't raise the camp on the radio and argue about if they're going back or not. This causes Hammond to finally reveal that Murphy is immune to the virus and could be the key to a vaccine because of the antibodies in his blood. He shows off his disgusting zombie bites, and apparently one of these zombies was a fan of Chili's because he ate 2 of Murphy's ribs. This convinces the crew to continue on to the rendezvous point, but they are interrupted by a radio call from Doc, who sees a giant explosion plug-in effect at the camp and tells them that the whole place is on fire and they gotta get back over there. Next thing you know, they're heading back to the camp, and I guess that means that Hammond gave up? He was willing to shoot them 2 seconds ago, so I don't know. Maybe this next part makes me a bad person, but it made me laugh so goddamn hard. They get back to the camp and see a school bus speed down the dirt road and are like, oh, thank God, the children are safe, only for a bunch of zombified 8-year-olds to burst from the bus. This is where I was like, oh wow, this show just straight up murders children. Let me tell you, I did not know the half of it. Doc's group shows up just in the nick of time, and they speed off with helping Hammond now being their only real option. I also want to point out how fast people turn into zombies in the show. It's pretty much immediate. The ragtag group makes its way to the nearby high school in Sleepy Hollow, New York, only to find the place deserted and all of the soldiers either dead or missing. What's worse is that evidence points to the local survivors being the ones who attacked the soldiers when they heard about food and supplies. Garnett finds a baby in a crashed truck with a deceased driver, and the others kill some zombies on the roof, only to find that they were surrounding a woman locked in a cage. The woman's name is Cassandra, and she claims to have locked herself in there to get away from the zombies, but also she lost the keys somehow. And then the group slut-shames her for wearing a tank top. Hammond tells everyone to gather supplies and move out with him, though they don't really want to listen to him because they never really wanted to go all the way to California with Screamy Shooty Man and Mr. Personality.
You and I are gonna see if we can start up that deuce and a half. Everybody needs back here in 5.
Alright, man, you can try and convince them. Roll for Intimidate again. Ooh, not quite good enough. If you add your +2 from Inspiration, that'll work, though. Do you want to do that?
Go!
While the others split off to go gather supplies, Garnet and Murphy stay to watch the baby. It's not long before some zombies show up and Garnet kills them all with a hammer, and he looks fucking insane in these shots, man. When Hammond returns with Roberta, they find that the baby is actually a nightmare fuel zombie baby that skitters around the room like a fucking face hugger from Aliens. They argue over who's gonna dome shot the infant and lock it inside. Murphy and Garnet get in an argument, and they all decide that instead of just leaving in the trucks, someone has to go in and put the baby zombie out of its misery, which is probably the dumbest decision that they could possibly make in this situation. It's already dead, man. Just leave it locked in there and dip. Hammond worries that Garnet won't be able to go through with shooting the zombie baby, so he decides to go inside and look for it, which proves rather difficult because it's sliding all around and crawling super fast and shit. He finally finds it mean mugging him from under a desk or something when, surprise, the woman in the truck wasn't dead. Well, she was, but she is also a zombie. Yeah, the zombies in the show really like pretending to be asleep until opportune moments. Hammond is nearly eaten to bits in a pretty gory scene that I probably have to blur, and then the rest of the crew burst in to see the baby chewing on his innards. They waste no time pulling out all their weapons and blowing the zombaby and zommommy away in a hail of gunfire. And holy shit, man, I am not sure I expected to see an undead toddler riddled with machine gun fire, but it's here. With that little experience taken care of, they sort of wonder what to do in the parking lot for a little bit, with Murphy saying he's gonna take off by himself. Their argument is interrupted by a radio transmission from none other than Cruller, who fills them in on the rest of the information on Operation Bitemark. Garnet, now the leader of the survivor group, decides to complete Hammond's mission, and the team picks up one more member before leaving the school, a kid named 10K, who saved Doc earlier in a scene I forgot about because the zombie baby erased my brain. And that is the end of the first episode of Z Nation, and it was quite a ride if I do say so myself. While the show might not have the biggest budget, the tightest scripts, or the special effects of some of the other shows on bigger, more popular networks, what it does have is variety and some really stupid fun. Z Nation knows how to have fun with its zombies, from radioactive walkers infesting a nuclear power plant that's close to melting down, to a literal zombie tornado. The show is a weird ride that never stops trying to entertain its audience, no matter how stupid it has to get. If nothing I've described here today entices you at all to check out Z Nation, well, let me leave you with some words that could still pique your interest. Zombie cheese wheel. Hello everyone and welcome to the end card. First off, let me thank my channel members very quick, aka Batosai, Argan, Griever, Brian Sanchez, D. Mells, Daniel Johnson, Danky Stank, Swanky Mank, Gert, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, John Lamb, Johnny G, Canto 20, McLean Nugent, Mr. Smash, Trey Hardy, Video Game Player 75, and Zappa Slave. I cannot believe I did that in one breath. Holy goddamn. Alright, anyway, thank you guys so much. If you made it to the end of this video, which is a extra video, a non-anime video, let me know below because that's awesome. Thank you very much if you did. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please let me know if you'd like to see more stuff like this that's just kind of weird and out there and a little bit quicker for me to create. I think it was really fun, and it was a fun type of script to write because it's a little bit different, you know, than I normally do, a little bit more jokey, a little bit more off the cuff. So I was really excited to do this one, and Z Nation is is really stupid, but It's really fun, which is what I like. So if you know any other shows like that you want to see me like take a quick look at, then definitely leave a comment below. Coming up next is going to be the second Unicorn video. That's coming along, should be out next week. And then we have Blue Gender at the end of the month, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. Probably be a channel update video out soon with some Patreon news. And that is about it. I have one more video that is an extra video like this that's shorter, planned for the month too. I'm going to try and do more of those more often. And yeah, we'll play it by ear and see how they go. And well, I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much once again. You all have a wonderful week.